What if the life you're living isn't really yours? What if your soul has been whispering for years, but you've been too distracted to hear? Choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's spiritual. And as Carl Jung taught us, it's the first step toward profound transformation, peace, and true alignment. Choosing yourself is the most radical act of self-respect you can make in a world that constantly demands your conformity. Every time you abandon your needs to meet someone else's expectations, you shrink a little. You silence your voice. You dismiss your truth. And while this might win temporary approval, it creates long-term disconnection from your soul. Carl Jung warned us of this danger. Living a life that is not yours, even if it appears successful from the outside, leads to inner emptiness. The truth is, many people aren't truly living, they're performing. You are not here to perform. You are not here to be what others want you to be. You are here to become, to evolve, to remember who you are beneath the conditioning, beneath the programming, beneath the fears that have kept you small. Jung understood that the real work of life begins when you stop searching for meaning outside of yourself and start listening to the quiet voice within, the voice you've been ignoring, dismissing, doubting. The signs have always been there: the exhaustion after saying yes when you meant no, the anxiety that rises in situations that no longer fit, the guilt that lingers after compromising your values. These are not random. They are signals, clear, persistent messages from your unconscious mind that something within you is out of alignment. Most people fear this realization because it threatens the very structure of their lives. Relationships built on pleasing others, careers designed to impress rather than fulfill, identities molded to survive rather than thrive. But suppression has a cost. You can only hide your truth for so long before it manifests as anxiety, depression, physical illness, or a nagging sense that something is missing. Choosing yourself means facing all of this. It means looking at the life you've built and asking the terrifying question, is this really mine? And if the answer is no, then the next step is even harder. Beginning the work of letting go. Letting go of roles, letting go of expectations, letting go of the person you've been pretending to be. Jung believed that wholeness is not achieved by perfection, but by integration. That means embracing every part of yourself, not just the light, but the shadow. The shadow is the part of you you've been taught to hide. The anger, the grief, the selfishness, the desire, the mess. But the shadow isn't evil, it's simply misunderstood. It's a part of you that's been silenced and is now asking to be heard. To choose yourself, you must welcome your shadow to the table. Not to let it run the show, but to give it space to be seen, acknowledged, and integrated. This process isn't comfortable. In fact, it's often the most painful thing you'll ever do. But on the other side of that pain is liberation. Because when you stop rejecting parts of yourself, you stop needing others to validate you. When you own your truth, no one can use it against you. When you embrace your full self, you stop attracting people and situations that require you to be less than whole. One of the clearest signs that you haven't yet chosen yourself is the presence of relationships that drain you. Relationships where you walk on eggshells, shrink your voice, or sacrifice your needs for the sake of harmony. Jung believed that relationships are mirrors. They reflect our inner world. If you consistently attract people who disrespect your boundaries, ignore your needs, or make you feel small, it's likely because some part of you believes that's all you deserve. When you choose yourself, you start setting boundaries, not to keep people out, but to protect your peace. Boundaries are not barriers. They are bridges to deeper, more authentic connection. When you say no to what doesn't serve you, you create space for what does. This might mean walking away from people you love. It might mean ending a job that once gave you meaning. It might mean spending time alone. But solitude is not the enemy. Solitude is sacred. It is the space where you remember yourself. Choosing yourself also requires radical honesty. You must be willing to admit the truths you've been avoiding. Maybe the dream you've been chasing isn't yours. Maybe the path you're on was never meant for you. Maybe the version of success you've been striving for is just a mask. To choose yourself is to strip away the illusion. To look in the mirror and ask, who am I? When no one is watching. That's where your truth lives. Not in the roles you play, but in the silence beneath them. This honesty often brings grief. Grief for the time you've lost, Grief for the parts of yourself you've abandoned. Grief for the relationships that no longer fit. But this grief is necessary. It is not a punishment. It is the clearing. It is the shedding. And it is through this process that space is made for something new to emerge. Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming your most authentic self. It is not a path for the faint of heart. It requires courage, persistence, and an unwavering commitment to your own growth. But the rewards are extraordinary. As you become more aligned with your truth, your intuition sharpens, your energy shifts. You begin to attract experiences, people, and opportunities that reflect your essence rather than your mask. Synchronicities increase. Life begins to flow. You stop forcing and start allowing. You stop striving and start trusting. You realize that you don't need to chase what's meant for you. It will find you when you become who you were always meant to be. But there will be resistance. The world is not built for authentic living. It's built for performance. People will question your choices. Some will call you selfish. Others will distance themselves. Not because you've changed, but because your light exposes their shadows. Your growth triggers their stagnation, and your truth threatens the comfort of their illusions. Do not shrink to make others comfortable. Do not dim your light to keep the peace. The cost is too high. You were not born to be tolerated. You were born to be known, to be seen, heard, and honored, not just by others, but by yourself. The more you choose yourself, the more clarity you gain. You begin to see through the noise. You realize that most of what you once believed was never yours to begin with. The beliefs, the fears, the doubts, they were inherited. And now you get to choose what stays and what goes. This is reclamation. This is rebirth. This is the power of choosing yourself, not just once, but every day, in the smallest decisions, in the way you speak to yourself, in the way you hold your own heart, in the way you forgive your past and bless your future. You stop asking for permission. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop negotiating your worth. And in doing so, you begin to live, not survive, live. You find joy in simplicity. You find depth in stillness. You find truth in silence. You find peace, not because life is easy, but because you are no longer at war with yourself. And with this peace comes purpose, not the kind handed to you by society, but the kind that rises from within. You realize that your presence is enough. Your story matters. Your healing matters. Your voice matters. You don't have to save the world. You just have to show up as yourself. That is the real service. That is the real offering. You become a living example, not by preaching, but by being. Your authenticity becomes medicine. Your boundaries become inspiration. Your courage becomes a map for others to follow. You don't need to lead anyone. You just need to be. The world needs more people who have chosen themselves, people who are rooted in truth, people who honor their intuition, people who live with integrity, people who no longer seek validation because they've already given it to themselves. And as you walk this path, you will continue to evolve. There will be setbacks. There will be doubt. There will be moments when the old version of you tries to return. That's normal. Healing is not linear. Growth is not constant. But you will know. You will feel the difference. You will recognize the cost of betrayal. And you will not go back. You will hold yourself through the fear, through the uncertainty, through the discomfort. Because you've tasted the freedom of being yourself, and you cannot unknow it. This freedom is not given. It is claimed. And it is claimed through daily choices. Choosing to speak your truth even when your voice shakes. Choosing to walk away even when your heart breaks. Choosing to rest even when the world demands more. Choosing to love yourself, especially when you feel unworthy. And as you choose yourself again and again, you rewrite your story. You create new patterns. You heal generational wounds. You break cycles that once defined you. You become the person your younger self prayed for. This journey is sacred. It is not about becoming better. It is about becoming real. The world has enough perfect masks. What it needs is your unfiltered truth. You will face moments when it feels easier to conform, to fall back into old roles, to chase safety rather than truth. But remember, the pain of authenticity is always more bearable than the pain of self-abandonment. To choose yourself is to declare, I am enough as I am. Not when you achieve more, not when you look a certain way, not when you're approved of. Now, in this breath, in this body, in this moment. And the more you live from this place, the more your life becomes a reflection of it. Not perfect, but real. Not always easy, but always meaningful. You will still face hardship, but you will face it with your eyes open and your soul intact. Because when you choose yourself, you don't just shift your life, you shift your entire frequency, and the universe responds. Not with ease, but with alignment. Not with guarantees, but with resonance. Not with control, but with co-creation. You are not here to be everything to everyone. You are here to be you. Fully, freely, unapologetically. And when you finally choose yourself, the journey does not end, it begins.